It doesn't really matter.
I think we only need to do one clap an episode. I think we got a bit clap happy.
It's just fun, I suppose. Okay. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the KEGCast. I'm your illustrious host, and this time we are live. We're going with a wacky new experiment. Get to see our horrible faces, our shitty little 240p webcams. It's incredible. What actually motivated us to go for the video again?
Jerry.
I think we wanted to do the Nintendo Direct, but it got delayed, and that's what brought the ball. Also, it's a lot easier if we can see each other to coordinate.
Yeah, actually, that's very true.
It feels more like a conversation already.
Yeah, that's very true. I suppose we typically did news before. I've done 13 of these. I should know.
I don't think we've had much consistency. I think we do like 3 episodes one way, 3 episodes another.
It keeps the body guessing. Well, okay. Straight from the top of the game subreddit, I got Sony Japan is finally ceasing support for the PS2. So this is kind of like the big line underneath it, like, oh, okay, this is it, we're done. And it's like, it's probably as long as like a standard electronics company would keep like something like that going, but I don't think it's as long as Nintendo, because I think only 2010ish they stopped supporting the SNES, which I thought was crazy.
Well, yeah.
That's because in some countries, though, don't like certain countries, just consoles have a way longer life cycle than they do in Western countries and Japan. Especially countries where it's difficult to bring in the newer consoles where they're taxed really heavily. Things like,
basically speaking of Brazil, aren't you? I think Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil's the big one that I was thinking of. I know the Master System is like still huge in Brazil or something like that.
And wasn't Mega Man like this cultural icon into the mid 2000s?
I love the idea that they're just like 10 years behind us when it comes to game culture in general.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just for repairing PS2s, is it?
Yeah.
To repair.
Yeah. I think if you wanted to get your PS2 repaired, you're a day late now. They had to be in the office by the 29th.
Mine just broke today as well, damn it.
Oh, no. I was thinking you were the only person who this would affect, Jerry, in Ireland.
No, I don't know. People still play their PS2s in Ireland, I think.
Yeah.
I wonder what the last game that was released on it was. Probably some sort of FIFA or something like that, right?
I think it was probably... Actually, I'd be willing to bet FIFA 18 probably still came out. Very good about putting out those FIFA games for him.
Yeah, I see if it was PES 2014.
Oh,
wow!
Yeah, came out. That's pretty cool, actually.
Good lads, Konami, like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Does anyone else have any news?
Yeah, so mine's kind of a short one because we kind of discussed it when I brought up the rumor before. But Geralt has been cast in the Witcher TV show, and it is Henry Cavill.
Oh, what do you think of that?
I think that's quite good. Now, like, I would call Henry Cavill a movie actor. I guess he's kind of a genre movie actor because outside of Superman, he only seems to play very Britishy spies. And like, he did originally, he was like made his break on The Tudor. So maybe he's not like the highest level of movie actor there is, but I do think it's a very high quality get for this show, and I think it's a great like indication that there will be some resources behind it and they're taking it seriously.
Yeah, that's true. I know some people were upset that it wasn't. Who's that guy who's in the new Kojima game? Is it Mads Mikkelsen? Is that his name? Or
him?
Yeah, people really thought that he looked the part. I guess just because he looks weird. Old. Yeah, he is. Yeah. What age is Geralt supposed to be? Sorry.
Like 90, but he's got a bunch of shit pumped into him that makes him basically like his hair and I think the mutations cause his hair to be white.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's grand. I do think people aren't giving enough credit to like a makeup department. It's like they can add a beard to Henry Cavill. He won't be completely free of facial hair.
They could take away a mustache. They can add a beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Controversial though, definitely.
Also, I'm not sure if this is new news, but I found it reading the articles that apparently it is also going to be filmed in Eastern Europe. So that's another plus. It's not just filmed in some film set in Vancouver, which I guess would be the fear. Like, if you're going to do a show like this, actually get out into the wilderness and go into one of those countries with some lax stuntman laws. So that always makes it better.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, what would you guys want out of like an actual Witcher show? Because I don't know, would you want it to be more episodic and kind of self-contained, where he'll just come across something that happened in like a side quest or a book, or even they come up with their own original plot that could be self-contained, or it contributes to the larger idea of the war and stuff?
So I don't really know much of the like Witcher lore outside of Witcher 3. I know there's like an absolute ton of it, but I thought the Witcher 3 did such a perfect thing of each so many of the quests felt so self-contained, but then you realize they were bigger threads and led on to other things. So I think that's perfect for like Monster of the Week kind of episodic thing, but then all the threads do kind of come together. I think that will work great in a TV show. So I'd almost say like most episodes would probably introduce a new character or something, and then they might come back in some form later in other episodes, and there'll be a big accumulation, and things will lead into each other that you wouldn't expect. And yeah, so like that would generally be the structure I'd like to go for. I can't go into any more detail than that because I'm a fake Witcher fan. But
yeah, same. I do think that's pretty accurate, where they'll probably have Geralt travel to a new location every episode or every second episode, and but will contribute to some overall narrative or goal that he's trying to reach. To be honest, my strong opinion is that this will never actually get produced. It'll just stall with a bunch of information. It's like, oh, we got this guy to write it, and then he didn't write it, and I feel like, I don't know if I'd say the Uncharted movie production just kind of soured me on the idea that they can finish these.
Okay.
There is a trickle of news every 4 months for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And they never got anything done.
So you know the film The Meg, apparently that was being optioned since 1998. That's when the rights to that were bought in 1998, and they finally got it made. So I'm just going to say, if it takes 20 years, it'll happen. Sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
I can't even remember what I was going to say now, but you took my thunder completely. But yeah, well, I was going to say, I think that Netflix are heavily leaning. It is a Netflix show, right? Yeah, they're really leaning into the originals thing at the moment, because I heard somewhere that they're going to start scaling back how many non-original movies they have on their platform. Just because of, I guess, maybe copyright laws or how much it costs to just have them on there. And they're going to focus like a lot more on having like the best shows just be Netflix shows to begin with. So if that happens, I feel like because it's a Netflix original, it probably has quite a lot of backing behind it, because they kind of need these things to work. I think they usually post massive earnings at the end of years and stuff like that, Netflix, because they put so much money into shows that just don't do well. Yeah, I don't know.
Don't they actually run at a loss? Like they run at a loss they're allowed to run at, but they do run at a loss making all this stuff.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know why, but I assume that's why they're trying to scale back, like just focus on their originals and get rid of everything else.
It might also be they're not going to have a choice, because if Disney are going to start removing their stuff, maybe Warner Bros. Will have their own service. It might not be a like choice in the long run.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. Yeah. My bit of news is really quick and it's really bad. But I've been on a bus for the last 6 hours, so it's not my fault. Yoshi, the title of Yoshi just got leaked.
Oh shit! That is good news.
Well, yeah. Actually, guess. Can you guess?
It's cardboard.
Yep.
Yoshi's Crummy Caper.
It's a card life.
No, you're both wrong. I feel like it's very gettable, but it's Yoshi's Crafted World.
Oh, okay.
So
World isn't as punny. I don't know.
I thought your names were better, guys. I'll give you that. This is. I feel like it's kind of uninspired almost because it's. I guess they're trying to really tie it into the World series. I guess I don't know, Woolly World, Crafted World, but the game has just been dropped for so long now. Like I feel like we've just known that there's this Yoshi game coming out, but it's always been too far away to be like anybody to have any sort of excitement for it.
Yeah.
It's really funny. I listened to cap off all our news. We were going to record for the Nintendo Direct and have that be the podcast, but then news came that because of the typhoon, the earthquake, that it's been delayed because they're obviously minding themselves. But what was I going to say? So I listened to a Game Explain video of them speculating what would be in it. And getting towards the end of the video, one of them's just like, none of us mentioned Yoshi. That's probably a good reason for that. And it's just a general air of like, I don't care now. I think it had the horrible sting of like not people caring about a particular amount and it being announced too early.
I think it's the worst thing to announce a Yoshi game too early, just because there's not really any hype to begin with. So just bring it out. Just drop it one day on the eShop and let that be the end of it.
Yeah.
It desperately needs to be like, it needs to figure out its own niche for platforming, because what it's trying to do is just be a second kind of Kirby game without like all of the fun power absorbing and stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like Yoshi's quite a lot more than that. I mean, there's like Yoshi on the SNES is like, it's not an easy game.
No,
by any means. It's tough, and if you look at like someone like Trihex play it, obviously there's an awful lot of skill that's not even meant for the player to find. And I sort of hate that they don't hate it, but they've never been able to recapture that first game.
I feel like the production team seems to think that it begins and ends with the art style. Like, oh, okay, it was a crayon world for Yoshi's Island, so we'll have the claymation style for the 3DS game, and then the Woolly style, because Epic was so good, then we'll just have a Woolly style for the Wii U game. And now this is like cardboard. And those are all good ideas for an art style, but I don't know.
It's annoying that something can be so charming, but then when you actually play it, it's how quickly the charm just gets sucked out of it once you get used to the art style. The art style is so cool, and they just don't back it up with enough substance behind the actual game. It's a big loss, but oh well. We move on to games.
Sure.
Shame enough. Yeah, fair enough. What have you been up to, Jerry?
I'm working my way through a couple of games at the moment, and I'm going to hold off on talking about them at any length until I'm finished. But one of them that I'm nearly done, I'm about 2/3 of the way through, is Sin and Punishment: The Star Successor for the Wii. Which is nice and nice and niche, but it is. And so far, it's been amazing. Like I turned it on, and I thought I'd enjoy it, and I get through it, and I'd be like, oh yeah, it's a nice little on-rail shooter on the Wii or whatever. But not at all. Every night I've been playing the game, and like there are seriously some sections that I'm like, I didn't really do well enough in that I have to go back and play it again. And I will, and that's why it's been taking me so long to get through it, because I've been trying to just get through these sections as well as I possibly could and get a higher score than I could at the start. And I feel like I was so surprised at just the production value of it. I mean, the story is trash, and some of the character models are awful. But when you're actually playing the game and you're going through these levels on these rails, there's so much stuff flying past you at once. And the spectacle is actually, for the Wii, it's really cool. You've played this game on, right, as well?
I didn't get too far into it. I kind of I hold the original Sin and Punishment in such esteem that I didn't like the graphics not being absolute garbage. Like, I know they're not like HD or anything. They're not an N64 game that wants to look like a Linkin Park album cover, kind of.
Fair enough. Yeah, I actually am interested to play the original after this, but I'll hold off on that for now, and I'll talk about it more when I finally beat it. But yeah, it's pretty good so far.
I think I mentioned this the last time we read up Sin and Punishment, but I'm doing it for the podcast. The only knowledge I have of Sin and Punishment 2 is like Games Radar. They either said this on the podcast or they actually did it, that their review was just a bunch of game over screens, like well over a dozen. Then it's 6 out of 10 at the end.
Interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say it's hard at all? Like for
I would say that it's definitely. I think there's 7 chapters, or there's 8, but there's like a tutorial chapter. I think I'm on 5, and it's getting hard. It is getting tougher, but I always feel like I don't know. I find it very difficult to get frustrated with rail shooters because they're not like the levels aren't crazy long. They're kind of just long enough. So I don't find myself getting frustrated with the death. Also, it gives you so many checkpoints in a level.
Yeah.
That when you die, like if you die in a boss, you're going back to the start of the boss. But like the bosses aren't even that long, so it's fine for the most part so far. Maybe the ending gets really hard. I don't know, but like it's not an easy game. But I wouldn't say like I would define my review based on how many times I died. It's not frustrating me that much right now. Anyway. So yeah, Owen, what have you been up to?
So I have just finished Shadow Complex. Are you?
Oh, cool!
Excellent.
So you've played it before, have you, Kieran?
Yeah.
What can I ask? Did you play it when it was new?
No. So I think I got a 360 around 2010. I'm gonna guess roughly, and that was on the hit list of like I want to play of games I wanted to play on the system. So
yeah. So what drew me to it? Because like I have a load of Game Pass games to play. And it's probably one of the less critically well-regarded ones there. But I remember my friend playing it I think it was an early Summer of Arcade game. So I kind of find it interesting to play a Metroidvania that was before the Metroidvania renaissance. Like, keep in mind that this Metroidvania game came out when they were both making new Metroid and Castlevania games, which is just how long ago it was.
Yeah.
So I kind of came into it with this whole idea that I kind of wanted to mock it. I don't want to be bad, but just like after playing it for a few minutes, I was like, okay, it's got this weird like aiming system where you aim with the other stick, and most of the time it'll be aiming in a 2D plane unless there's an enemy in a 3D location, in which case you can aim at them, but it's kind of a bit janky. Like you get used to it or not. And I wanted to sneer at that, but then after a while I was like, okay, this is probably doing it just as well as Metroid Other M is. At least you don't need to stop and go into an aiming mode to do it. And I wanted to sneer at the graphics for being a bit kind of like trying too hard to be AAA. And then when you really get down to it, they're actually not bad for an arcade game released in 2008. And okay, the story is absolute. I wouldn't say trash, but there's a lot of problems with the story. So basically, it's got the Scooby-Doo problem of there's so few characters that you basically know every character has to have a role. So your girlfriend's the damsel in distress, but she turns out to be a US agent because there wasn't enough other characters for them not to do a twist. And the whole thing kind of wants to be Metal Gear Solid too much, but just isn't interesting enough to do it. It's like Metal Gear Solid if there was no like other characters. And I think my favorite line was the ending line. I was going to use it if I was called on for an intro line today. One of the enemies asks you, "Who are you?" And at the end, and you say, "I'm no one, and I'm everyone." And it's just like, oh god, oh. But apart from the story, like, so I guess the elements it really needs to kind of peg down are the exploration and the empowerment. I think those are the two most important bits of a Metroidvania. And I didn't realize you could turn off the map, or sorry, the directions for ages. So I was playing it as like an on-rails Metroidvania just because it was so easy to give it to you. In hindsight, I didn't have to do it, and that's my fault. So okay, I'll take a hit on that. And then, but I kind of found just navigation around just didn't feel as well as a lot of Metroidvanias. It wasn't awful, and again, I made the mistake of taking too long to turn off the guiding rail, so it was just pointing me in the right direction. And there was lots of good things to kind of find along the way, so that's not too bad. But the empowerment, I think, is where it actually really succeeded. So like I think this is where the game really came through for me, is that one of the real important things is you have to feel there's a great arc in a Metroidvania. And by the end of the game, you have this like supersonic running speed. You can punch even the biggest enemies. you just jump into a horde of enemies and just shoot in random directions. You take them down. You're facing these big mech bosses, and it is feeling quite satisfying. So in the end, as much as I think I want to sneer more at Shadow Complex, maybe it's just me being a bit kind of anti Xbox 360. But it actually did come together to be quite. And if you're willing to deal with a bit of jank and like I'd say a bit of uninspired game design at points, I think like I guess it's not its fault that it was a Metroidvania, 3 years before it became the most kind of thought through genre of gaming. So actually I quite enjoyed my time with Shadow Complex, even if it took me a while to understand I was enjoying it.
I love that last line.
I definitely back you up on the empowerment. I thought all the guns in it were actually quite good. Like it's got the grenades felt nice to use. I think you get like, do you get some sort of concrete or ice gun towards the end?
Yeah, you get like a foam. Actually, on the grenades,
yes.
The grenades, like I like them from a gameplay sense, but it's just really weird firing a really limp grenade launcher. So it's like a grenade launcher that goes like two meters in front of you, whatever way you aim it. And like it works from a gameplay sense, but in another way, it's like, ooh. But yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely, you can see there's a lot of 2008 in there, like the turret sections, and the acting is just like, I think it's like it's Nolan North plays the main character, and like it has that problem you mentioned where there's like 4 characters and you can't really get much done with them.
Yeah,
but it's thankfully light on story as far as I remember. You don't really have to get into it.
No, not at all. There's like one cut back to your like one memory scene, and that's like half the story. Like, yeah. So yeah.
Did you play it on Xbox One?
Yeah, it's on Game Pass. So.
Yeah, that's actually really handy. Yeah. Does the Xbox One still have the Xbox 360's like online store, or do things get re-released?
So I think you can, but whenever I try and go onto it, it asks me to put it. It asks me for credit card details, and then doesn't accept that I'm not from the UK because like I don't have a UK area code.
Yeah.
So and this is just me trying to grab games for gold stuff.
Right.
So
okay.
Here it does. Yeah.
Yeah. It's still cool you could play it anyway, because it's one that I definitely missed out on. I missed out on a lot of those like downloadable like Summer of Arcade. Xbox Live Arcade and WiiWare and all that sort of stuff. I missed out on a lot of those games when I was younger, so there's a desire to go back and play it. So it's nice that they're still on the stores, their representative stores.
Yeah, it might have even got a bit of a remaster. I think there's like a Shadow Complex remaster, even though the version I have, it ports into Xbox 360 mode. So I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. It never came out. It's an Xbox exclusive, is it? Or
it's probably on PC as well. I don't know. It'll be announced for
I think the remake made it onto Steam, actually.
Okay, cool.
I don't think it's on PS4. I'm not certain, but I do think Epic owns the license to Shadow Complex, so who knows?
Yeah. It's cool, though.
Yeah. Anyway, what I talked about it last week, but I finished up Celeste.
Oh, cool.
So won't go too long, but like I was worried at the start that it leans into themes about mental illness. I was worried it would be a bit hack and a bit too on the nose. And it gets close, but it doesn't really do it. And it earned the really punchy moments. It earns quite a lot. So I thought, the story was extremely well written. Everything else I said about it beforehand was really nice. I think it was definitely the appropriate length that it needed to be. Yeah, like I took about 8 hours to finish it, but I left the game running sometimes while I did other stuff.
Yeah.
But and the worry about content, really, I shouldn't have, because it gives you as much as you want. Because I've got the B-sides to do. I've got the rest of the collectibles to do. I've got all of the C-sides to do. And apparently, like I looked up a video about people who have done the C-sides, and the B-sides teach you advanced tech that like you might have known in the original. Like if you hold down jump while you go through this squishy jelly stuff that gives you a boost, you'll keep your momentum. But then like apparently the C-sides, I watched a video on this, will teach you really advanced edge boosting and like weird wall jumping stuff that has like 10 frames of window in it. So it's like they figured out the speedrunning tech that would be in the game ahead of time and made levels based around it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so it's like your man said, like by the time you've done the seaside levels, that speedrun mode stops seeming like such a ridiculous idea and starts to become like a reality that you could attempt now.
Yeah,
and,
that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I will go as deep as that, but I'll be dipping in and out and see what I can get done.
Yeah, I follow the devs on Twitter and they seem like really cool guys. Especially when they talk about like the fact that they made the entire game in like the Pico 8 as well.
Mm.
Oh, wow.
And I think like even they released some of their source code for the game, and it's like all this big messy hack that they did. Like it's amazing, but they're not by no means like I don't know really clean coders or anything like that. They just seem like
no, I remember seeing that. It was just disgusting. And like I think they got someone from the outside, and it's like your job is to turn this pile of crap into C++ for us.
Yeah.
On the game.
But it's cool. It's a really cool game. Do you think you're better at Towerfall now, Kieran, because you played that game?
I suppose, yeah. No,
yeah.
I have to be at least a little bit better.
Yeah,
they're very, very close to each other. I wish some of the Celeste tech is in Towerfall actually now.
Yeah, it would be cool if they did. I don't know if they did a sequel to Towerfall or something, and they brought like they sort of advanced the movement and the controls to be more like Celeste or anything extra they added, because I feel like Towerfall would really benefit from like all this stupid, ridiculous tech.
I am curious, like what he can do now, because I don't know what I personally expect out of him at this point. I know I want him to keep using that same engine because pixel art just looks too nice, and all the stuff looks too nice. So whatever he makes, I just want it to have a jump and an 8-way dash, and for it to be pixel art. Then he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. So main segment.
Excellent.
Yep. Okay, cool. Do we want to just go straight into it, or do we want to cut or anything like that?
I don't think we can we?
Oh yeah, we can't because we're doing the live broadcast.
Live stream. Oh yeah.
Exactly. Off live, can we? And re-go live? I don't know. Yeah, probably not.
No, I don't think so. Sure, we'll see how it goes.
Good thing no one's watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have 0 viewers. I can see. Okay, great. So our main segment, we did want to just deep dive into like Platinum and just talk about them as a developer. And I suppose a good way to start off would be like, how did you guys first hear about Platinum, and what was maybe your first Platinum game?
Ooh, I think I only learned about them as like fanboy partisanism after Nintendo was going to back up Bayonetta 2. I think it was just like, okay, something good is coming to the Wii U, so I need to put myself behind this and this developer. So yeah, that was me.
A YouTuber I watched made a video about Clover Studio closing. And then afterwards started kind of covering Platinum quite heavily when they announced their games. And so the first game I played was Bayonetta 1, which I was quite excited for. And I think IGN gave a ridiculously good review when it came out, like maybe a 9.5 or a 10 or something. So I have quite a funny story of I guess I was in secondary school, quite a young, probably maybe third year or second year, and I went down and I was quite excited for Bayonetta and I bought it. But it's a really weird game. And I had some of this group of friends that I was sort of trying to impress at the time over, and I was playing Bayonetta, and they saw it and they're like, what is this? This is just so embarrassing bad. Like, what are you playing? And I was like, oh, nothing. And I remember I like traded it in out of peer pressure to get something else like the day later. And because I was enjoying the game, they were like, oh, like you could just trade this back in and like we could get something else. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. It's the stupidest decision I ever made in my life.
that's pure 15-year-old right there. Like,
yeah, it is. Yeah, I genuinely cannot remember what I bought instead. But yeah, I bought it then a couple of years later. I probably didn't lose any money on it because I think I bought it for like a tenner, and I might have even just returned it. But I played it and I loved it, and so yeah, Bayonetta was my first kind of platinum game. What about you, Kieran?
So for me, I did follow them when they were Clover because I beat Okami, and like you fire up the game a lot, and the Clover like animation and noise really distinct, and so I picked up Beautiful Joe, and I think I rented God Hand just off the basis of that. Because I literally like went onto the internet. It's like, what the fuck else have they made?
Yeah,
I'm curious. And then for some reason, Edge got Edge magazine, which I was getting all the time, had a real fascination with them. So I was keeping up with like they made an article about when they were broken up. I think over how badly Okami did, but it might have been something else. They returned. Most of the studio heads returned Seeds. And Seeds never got a game off the ground. And so Platinum is what Seeds eventually became when I think they got another fella on board.
Off studio, is it?
Yeah. And they, yeah, no, I remember just reading that article in Edge. I talked about it in one of the earlier KEGCasts that, like, we just blew my mind. They were making 4 games, and I don't know, they could all be amazing. Who knows? And so Mad World was actually my first platinum game because it was the first platinum game to come out. And just thought it was unreal that they were kind of being really rebellious. I think around that time, like around the middle of the generation, like Square Enix had like completely slowed down their release schedule to a complete crawl. They had gone from releasing so many PS2 games to like taking ages on Final Fantasy 13. Then it came out and was a bit of a disappointment. And like Japanese development in general had slowed down, and they were really struggling with how much mobile gaming was taking off, especially in Japan, how much more popular mobile gaming was getting and portable gaming, whereas they weren't being able to justify AAA development. So I think like Platinum, they said themselves they wanted to represent a culture shift there, where they wanted to make good original AAA games at like a consistent pace. I think they succeeded for pretty much all of the PS3 360 generation.
Yeah, I think so.
They were putting them out constantly, like every 18 months easily.
Yeah, I think about it, like to bring out Bayonetta and Mad World in the same year is pretty crazy. It's cool. I always love the way like Mad World as well. It's like, you know, whenever you made a game for the PS3 and Xbox 360, like you had to make a Wii game as well, but it couldn't be the same game. It had to be either like the game you're making with the subtitle or just like some completely original thing.
Yeah. Or it's like it's the game with the same title, but it's completely different. Like it's based off the PS2 instead or something.
So yeah, about their formation, Kieran. So my understanding is they all chose to leave Clover, and I think they were getting some pressure about the sales. And I think they'd moved into Clover away from Capcom main because Capcom had said 80% of games need to be sequels. That's what the executive said. And in reality, it was like higher than 80%. So I think there was just all the really good creators of like the 90s and very early 2000s in Capcom just got together. And luckily they left before. I'm glad KJ and Ifune didn't jump on the ship with them.
Oh god, yeah.
But all of these amazing directors, like I guess all the real talent from Resident Evil and Devil May Cry and other popular Capcom games, just all kind of got on just a really interesting studio. I don't know if you know much about Image Comics, but they basically did the same thing like 15 years earlier in the comic space, but they were too successful and they spent all their money on drugs and were like creatively bankrupt within a few years and nearly brought down the industry. So I'm glad Platinum kind of were a little more in control than Image Comics.
Besides maybe Kamiya, I don't think we'll ever see them do cocaine. Like,
good,
probably, yeah.
They're all sensible middle-aged Japanese men who dress like they're in their 20s, but at least act like
exactly.
Middle-aged.
They'll destroy their livers, but nothing else.
Yeah.
Brought us a bit off topic there, didn't I?
I was just looking into who the 3 originals who left were. And
Mm.
it was Shinji Mikami, it's a lad called Inaba, and Kamiya.
Mhm.
And they all worked on basically Resident Evil, and what Kamiya worked on Devil May Cry, did he? Or was it?
Yeah, so Kamiya
Resident
and
Evil as well.
Mikami, they took turns doing the Resident Evil games. I always get them mixed up, actually.
Yeah. The other guy was just another guy who he worked on Resident Evil and Devil May Cry as well. He also worked on Ace Attorney and Steel Battalion. So I love the way he worked on Steel Battalion. That's great.
I never got to play that.
You never will.
Which is the one who made Goof Troop. I really love that. Like, you can see the root of like his horror genre. Like the whole corner of that game fits into the horror genre. It's perfect. Like, oh
god, I don't know, but yeah, it's
either like, Kamiya or Mikami.
I mean, after their first 4 games, they started leaking into like licensed games between PS3 and PS4. So that's Goof Troop coming through right there.
Absolutely, yeah. It was Mikami who made Aladdin and Goof Troop for the SNES. He also made your favorite game, Dino Crisis, on.
Oh, good. And then he did Resident Evil 4 as well, didn't he?
He did. He's obviously not with them anymore because he has his own studio that he works on.
Evil Within.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah. So did you both play Bayonetta 1 as well?
Yes. Only at the Wii U launch, or at the Wii U release. So I was a bit behind.
Yeah. What was your experience playing it when it came out, Kieran? First of all.
It was around the time that I was starting to get conscious of the way women were represented. Okay. So even though I thought Bayonetta was kind of cool, I was very much bothered me like the way she looked and how naked she got. Because I was definitely of the opinion of like, I really don't want to explain what the fuck this is to my dad.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise, I thought the story was a bit rubbish, but I've never said that any of the Platinum Games stories are like where they're good. That's not their strength. It's usually storytelling. But everything else about it was excellent. It was definitely like the PS3 kind of step up for that kind of genre, where you have like those really long combos and you try and max it out, and you have a wide camera angle, and it's all just about really going for it. And I think the difficulty was exactly where it needed to be. I still remember trying. I beat the first boss on like my first sitting, the last boss on my first sitting, which I'm really happy with. So I think I stretched into 1 a.m. for me, and it was so hard, and I barely made it, and it just felt really, really gratifying. But yeah, it definitely is their signature game, if I had to say. It's not my favorite, but if I had to pick a game that like represents all their values and all the stuff they do, it's definitely that. And it's the only game they've made a sequel to, if I'm thinking correctly.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, that's Grasshopper.
Yeah.
Or McClover, yeah.
Even they were fed up with the situation with Beautiful Joe, I think.
Yeah. Beautiful Joe's a weird one, because I played that over in a friend's house when it first came out as well, and like I'd say Beautiful, I always thought it was very difficult. I don't know if you got the same. Yeah, it's a tough game. It's tougher than Bayonetta. Very unforgiving. I was quite young when I played it, but yeah, no, it's a tough game.
No, like Beautiful Joe and God Hand were like way tougher than anything they've ever made since.
Yeah. It kind of stops me from going back and playing it again, because I just know that it's going to be a real, I don't know, like a real, like you have to learn the game. There's no easy way to go about it.
No, I definitely agree with you.
And I think that's something that's really good about Bayonetta as well. It's like you can almost make it as hard as you want, because, well, on normal difficulties, you can get by without really knowing a whole ton of the combos. Like you can get by on a couple, but the more you go up, and like you can kind of learn yourself as much as you want of the game's mechanics. And I always really liked that. Like I really appreciated it.
Yeah.
That I didn't have to sift through these like move lists or whatever.
I found in the first Bayonetta the combat wasn't the issue. There was some awkward platforming, and especially those janky flying boat enemies. Or sorry, they're not janky, but those enemies really kind of threw me through the hoop a bit. And there's one moment with a turret near the end that I had to drop the difficulty for. So I think that was my moment of shame in Bayonetta. But apart from that, like as someone who hadn't played that genre before, it really kind of brought me on board, and I give those games more of a go.
Absolutely. It's a cool one. And then what did they do? What did they follow that up with?
So they did Anarchy Reigns, which is like, I thought it was really interesting, and then like I think I was not somewhere where I think I was on holidays because it came out during the summer. So Anarchy Reigns is basically they had a crossover fighting game where they had original characters, they had characters from Mad World, and I don't think Bayonetta was in it, but it was
no, she wasn't in it. I'm pretty sure.
But it was interesting. It was the genre of spectacle fighting where it's like, you know, you're all doing 3D combo, like third person combos on each other.
Kind of like a Naruto or something, or like a Naruto game, or
no. I suppose I never played it, so I don't know if it was actually deeper than a Naruto game. But yeah, the idea was it was online. There was a single player, but it really wasn't incredible.
Right.
But it was delayed and stalled, and it wasn't amazing for them as far as I know. It kind of just petered out really quickly. And because I was out during the summer, and I was away from the PlayStation. When I got back to it, the price of it had dipped like massively. I was starting to get a little bit suspicious that its population had just completely fallen off a cliff.
I would imagine it did.
So it's probably like the most famous Platinum game that I haven't given a go of.
Yeah, actually, looking at their release list as well is one that we kind of forgot that I actually have here in front of me, which is Vanquish. That we forgot to talk about. That came out in 2010, and Vanquish is probably one of my favorite games of all time.
Really? No.
I love everything about it. It's just, I don't know. I love the characters. Like it doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's so dumb, and I almost feel like it's making fun of the sort of cover shooters during that time, like Gears of War and stuff like that, because it's like cover shooters are you're just going from battle to battle, kind of in a slow way. You're these giant characters who move slowly and sit behind this cover. But in Vanquish, it's like you're using cover, but like you're flying around the stage in these weird rocket boots.
It reminds me of Metal Gear in a way that it's like it's a Japanese game. It's a Western game made by Japanese people.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Where it's just their take on the genre, and it's like there is so many things that you could identify that made it kind of Japanese. Where it's like you spent the whole time killing robots. There's not a lick of blood in the whole game. And normally, where there's a lot of dingy, bombed out streets and blown up cars and just brown ground and dirt everywhere. You're in this pristine white.
I think.
Go on.
The main character also, I don't know, he always reminded me of Snake.
Oh yeah.
Passively.
He had a button to smoke a fag, like when you were.
Yeah, that was brilliant. That was one of the best parts of the game, probably.
I actually always wanted to play Vanquish. It was on my list of PS3 games. I just never got round to it. But that's probably, if it ever gets a re-release, that's top of my list. Or can you buy it on PS4?
No,
I don't think so.
If you ever end up owning a PC for some reason, I think it got recently-ish, maybe in the last 2 years, it got a PC release that is apparently absolutely exceptional. Where it's like scaled all the way up to 4K, unlimited frame rate, and just you can really enjoy the game.
I always thought the game looked really nice as well. But sorry, what were you going to say?
What you're saying to me there is there's hope for me to hold out for it to be on other consoles. So that's all that encourages me to feel.
Yeah. The Switch needs Vanquish, very clearly.
You never know.
Yeah. Also, I just want to point out that you can't see it, but it has this lenticular cover. That's brilliant.
So actually, can we declare that the best Sega game of the last decade, or does Sonic Mania beat it out?
I haven't played any of the Yakuza games, but
okay, yeah.
they're like, maybe. Yeah, I'd actually say it potentially is.
Surely Bayonetta 2 also counts as well.
It's Nintendo though, isn't it?
It's published by Sega as well. Well, like.
Okay.
No, Nintendo published Bayonetta 2.
Okay, I guess I don't know. Their name's on the back of the box. Do they just own Platinum? I guess, or
they were going to publish it, then halfway through they pulled out, and then Nintendo came in at the last minute. So I kind of feel I'm not sure it would have been as good if there wasn't like Nintendo dollars going behind it.
That's fair enough. We'll take that away from Sega. So like everything else.
Yeah.
So Vanquish is the best game they've made in 10 years.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. So from Vanquish and Anarchy Reigns, the next game looks like Metal Gear Rising. So
this was an interesting one, I thought.
Absolutely,
Did you see the video? I think it was at the Game Awards where they revealed that the production team that had been working on it had like failed quite badly, and it was almost like Kojima was putting them on stage and pointing at them like, look at them and laugh, look at how they failed so much. And I got a real developer to make my game for me.
God.
I would really love to see like what that original team's like. What did they end up making that was just so bad that they had to get Platinum on the phone? They're like, save our game. I'd say it was.
Did you see before it became Revengeance, they had the idea that you could cut through everything?
Oh yeah, and then that just the whole game was just a disaster because of that.
Yeah. The production people said like, we just couldn't figure it out. Like, how could you make a stealth game when they could cut through all the cover? And that how could you make a level when they would just cut through the buildings and go wherever they wanted? And it's like they were just way too attached to cut through everything because they probably announced the game like that.
Yeah.
And, it was looking like vaporware for a bit 3 years.
Yeah, on the back of the box as well, it still says "cut at will." So I think that might have been the tagline when they revealed it, and they were like cutting off, bits of buildings and stuff like that. But I feel like that's like a team that goes to like a game jam and has an idea in the first 10 minutes and just never jettisons it, and it's just like no, like we could make a cover shooter in 6 hours in Unity or something like that.
Like it marked a point where they became like a developer for hire nearly, where it's like, oh, do you need a game? Do you need a game sorted out for you? We can get that done.
Yeah,
because like
Transformers.
Yeah, no. I'll just keep talking about Rising before we move on.
Yeah.
Like again, they're really good at just making like a 4-hour, 5-hour game that makes you feel like you've had a full experience.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing about Rising. I think that like it is quite short. You could if you were. I mean, I guess there is the system you have to learn is quite punishing at the start. So the start can be a bit slow, but once you get into it, you can really rush through that game in like 2 days, even a day, possibly. Probably.
Yeah.
If you're just playing it, it is quite short. I thought that, I don't know if you felt the same, but some of the boss fights in Rising are probably some of the hardest boss fights in any Platinum game I've played. In particular, like the last two, Sam and then the Senator.
Yeah, Senator's so iconic.
Yeah.
I don't know who made the soundtrack if it wasn't people involved. At Platinum, like it's an exceptional soundtrack. It's one of the best.
No, it is. It's such a cool game. I'm so glad that Platinum got to make it because it really made something that probably was going to be quite crummy into like a real classic.
Is it their best selling game?
Geez, I don't know. I'm not sure what their best selling game is actually. Because
it's one of those. It's probably their most mainstream game, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's got such a big name behind it, Metal Gear, that it really boosts the sales of it. I don't know if I think it was a bit polarizing when it came out.
Certainly.
Yeah, I knew a couple people. Like I was in college at the time, and in Dublin, and my roommate, he took a look at it, and it's not like he said like this is bad or something. But he's just like, yeah, that looks a bit too crazy for me. I like the Metal Gear games, but that's just a bit too Japanese for me. Yeah. I can totally get what he was saying.
Yeah, I think even at first, I was like, I thought like it took me a while to adjust because it is obviously like a huge departure from the series. I can get that now, and I completely like understand why. But at the time when it first came out, I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I do now. And it's one of those games because it is short as well. It's really good for replaying. It's highly replayable.
Okay, so it has sold over 2 million copies according to VG charts, whereas Nier Automata has sold more on the PS4 than Metal Gear Rising did on the PS3, but it's got lagging Xbox sales, so Metal Gear Rising takes the cake.
Nice. Geez, that's a Nier. Anyway, yeah. So
we'll get on to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So after Rising is the Wonderful 101, which is just wanted to quickly touch on that and say that that's like such a cool game.
Yeah,
it's very bold.
I'm annoyed I never bought it. There was a lot of good. Well, I'm not going to say it's very often, but there was a lot of good Wii U games coming out at the time, so it got kind of squeezed out by being between like actually having the game either month of it, which is any other time in the Wii U's life cycle, it could have came out to more kind of space.
You actually, yeah, it did come out probably. What year did it come out? It came out in...
It was 2013, so the month before was Pikmin. I think it might have been the same month as Rayman, and then the month after was Wind Waker, and the month after that was Mario 3D World.
Tough year on the Wii U, which is unfortunate because the Wii U really could have used a Wonderful 101 like later on. Later on down the road.
If that came out in 2015, everyone would have bought it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It also critics hated it when it came out as well. It had a real god hand problem where like it looks really cartoony and childish at the front, but it's probably one of their more technical games. There's a lot to learn, and the way the upgrade system works in it, it doesn't give you I think it doesn't give you a dodge and a parry right away.
No.
So you have to buy those, and if you don't do that, the next stage after maybe the first two, quite frustrating.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
But also probably one of the best asynchronous game experiences on the Wii U. They really use the gamepad well.
I think my problem with it was I didn't hate either of the control schemes, but I couldn't decide which one. Now, I was just playing the demo. But does that ever bother you where it's like, okay, there's two control schemes and I can't decide which is the like big brain solution to this problem?
There's one with this drawing and there's the one with the stick, right?
Yeah, probably the stick was better.
I think the stick was better in the end because you didn't have to fumble around with the pen.
Yeah.
Like I think when you I always love looking at combo videos of Wonderful 101 on YouTube. These like technical geniuses spending hours at this game that no one else played and just perfecting it perfectly. And you'll see the combos they do, and I'm pretty sure they use the stick. I might be wrong, but I think that was the optimal solution.
I think it was a little more difficult, but probably more rewarding once you did your hand wasn't away from every single other button.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say about Wonderful 101, Kieran?
I wish I finished it. I think I was playing Niall's copy installed on his Wii U, and I got a couple hours in, and I was enjoying myself, and just other stuff got in the way.
Yeah, I never fully beat it either, but like it is really good. It's just you can't play anything in between because you really have to be in the game. There's a lot to remember when you're playing it. So it's hard to take a break from it. But yeah, and then after that was Bayonetta 2, which we've all played. And so yeah, I'll let you guys talk about that.
Yeah, I just think they really took what they had at Bayonetta 1 and refined it. And I think well, more so you've been talking about how the story really pulls together. I don't think I was paying enough attention to the story, but like I knew it was good. I think but like I didn't know enough of like how it played into the first working with the first game as well. But yeah, in hindsight, that worked really well. And it just kind of really upped the game in terms of gameplay, and it removed a lot of the clunky parts. Now, if I was them, I wouldn't have put in the water sections. I guess that's just to prove you can do it interestingly.
Yeah. Well, it was... The water sections weren't great, but yeah, Kieran, you were going to say something there?
I would say that, like, as a company that started out trying to get away from sequels, I do think it's interesting that they took Nintendo up on the cash to get Bayonetta 2 going, and I would wonder, is this because I think this is the beginning of where they had a bit of a dip, maybe within the last 4 years, and now things are kind of like with Nier, things are basically turning around for the studio. But, Bayonetta 2, it really justifies its existence as a sequel, and they seem to have done a really good job of like not making something derivative, but something that's basically still more or less the same product as the first one.
Yeah,
they were good at not disappointing anyone, I suppose is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it's safe enough, I guess, but I feel like it's just the production value is a lot higher than the first, and that alone just makes it worthwhile.
That's what I'm saying. It does justify itself as a sequel with like the different things like the mechs and stuff, where they do change it up a good bit.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that game did come out on Switch, even though I have it on Wii U, just so it's not like lost to the ages on the Wii U. That's just a plus for me. Even though I don't think it lit the world on fire on Switch, but whatever.
No, it didn't. But it did quite well on the Wii U, right? For a Wii U game, like people did get behind it somewhat.
Yeah, it's nearly broke 1 million.
Yeah, just because Nintendo were pushing it so hard, and it would have been such a shame to see it die on the Wii U. And people were so upset when it was announced as a Wii U exclusive as well. People could not believe it. They were so mad. People who had PS3s and Xbox 360s. But Nintendo were willing to put the cash up, and you have to kind of give it to them as well for that.
Yeah, this is the thing about exclusives. The game wouldn't exist unless you paid for it.
So, exactly.
Yeah, they can do what they want.
Do people still get annoyed about exclusives? This is just all my friends have too many consoles, so I don't hear it from them anymore. Or
some people that will play on that will only own a Switch and a PC and really refuse to buy a PS4, but they'll see the good games on it. We'll call it hostageware. What is the thing that's been thrown around? But I think hostageware became a meme maybe a couple of years ago. So I think it's gotten better.
Yeah, for sure. It's not as bad as it was in like the Xbox 360, PS3 days. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they moved into what I would call the dark era of Platinum games, where it's like, I don't know if shit hit the fan, or they spent too much money on Bayonetta 2, or they lost people, but they needed to start hustling for money real bad, and so they took up Legend of Korra. And I remember when the news came out, my sister and I would watch new episodes of Legend of Korra as they came out and talk about them a lot. And I couldn't stress enough to my sister when this news came out, like, Amy, no, they're literally, if I had to pick the dream developer to make this, it would have been Platinum. They'll translate the game into like the perfect combat system. It'll be great. And to be fair, the actual, if you like put Korra into like a loading zone like Bayonetta style and just busted away a bunch of combos, you'd think the game was great. But the big thing that absolutely cripples it in the legs is there's 3 enemy types. There is a regular humanoid person, mechs that take an absolutely unreasonable amount of damage, and then in the last hour, you fight spirits, and it's like, it just gets so repetitive fighting the humans over and over and over again. And you can feel the squeeze of the budget. Like, they almost made a good game, but it's just a smidge mediocre because of all of these cuts here and there. Because it's mostly fun.
Did you buy the game when it came out here?
Yep. No, I think I got it for PS3. It was their first cross-platform game. It was on the PS4 and the Xbox as well.
Oh, really? It was that late? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was 2014, I think.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy.
And then they did Transformers Devastation after that. And Devastation is actually quite a good game, so I'll stand up for that. I think I got it for free on PS Plus. And no, it all just works out great. you could use guns if you needed to, and they were reasonably good. But also just the straight up fighting felt really meaty and nice, and your combo finishers would have you transform into the whatever vehicle you were and ram into people. And then when you double tapped dodge, you would transform into the car, just like you transform into the cat in Bayonetta. And no, felt nice. Really nice game.
Can I ask, did you play as just the one transformer, or did you get to play with a few of them?
You get a choice of about 3 for each level. So I did play as Bumblebee, and
yes.
I picked Megatron most of the time, just because. Sorry, not Megatron, Optimus most of the time, just because I'm an Optimus man, I suppose. But like they give you a lot of choice. I think they give you the choice between 4 different characters, but then at any given time, it's like 3 for each level.
Okay, but they're like there's a bit of variation because they don't usually do multiple characters, or at least in my experience.
No, they don't. Yeah,
and they play quite differently. No, if you're into Transformers, I definitely recommend it because it's just a great story, and it was very fun to play in the house.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, were you there when they find out that Megatron plans to cyberform the planet, and Optimus is just like, Megatron, you can't just cyberform.
Yeah, no, it was a fun game to watch, and I was very interested in it because I think with that game, one thing they definitely got right was the art style. And they get the, I don't know, they follow the old cartoon obviously more than kind of the newer Transformer things, and I feel like that really hit home with a lot of people because they were that came out at the perfect time. People were so sick of those new Transformer movies that a nice old school sort of Transformers game. Don't think it did amazingly well, but it was, and it probably was their B team as well, right? Like it wasn't Bayonetta or anything.
Like unless they were working on Nier like right now, it could have been their A team because they were just, or actually maybe their A team
Scalebound at the time.
Scalebound as well. Yeah.
Everyone was on Scalebound. You're dead right. Sorry.
So they did a really good job. I will get it eventually. I missed out on PS Plus, but I'm kind of looking for just, I don't know, a cheap copy on Amazon or something like that.
Do if you ever just see the cheapo copy on Amazon or in a game shop, it's a fun
recommend
weekend.
it. Yeah, absolutely.
Then they helped in part with Star Fox Zero development. I like to think that all they did was just make assets and do grunt work for them, because apparently they've said this, like they've been asked like, how do you make games so quickly, because like look how long the segment's going. But they say they make decisions quickly, as quickly as possible. They don't stand in the headlights for any reason. Like if they make a decision now, even if it's a bad one, then work has been done, and that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, Star Fox Zero, I feel like I would love to know. Yeah, they were brought in quite late on that as well. I'd love to know how much work they actually did on it. You're right,
I don't know if they were brought in that late. I think basically when Nintendo announced it way too early, because basically Nintendo had like an N64 level of demo.
Yeah.
They said, who wants to make this game? And like I think it was like they'd shown it before. They showed very basic things before Platinum were on board. So I think, Platinum just weren't given the time, and they're probably just given inane suggestions by Miyamoto.
Yeah.
Like I'd say they did the majority of the work on it, but just they didn't get to make the important decisions. Yeah.
It's a shame because I feel like Star Fox needs a Platinum to come in and just completely revamp it, because when you look back at the Star Fox catalog, I mean, it's not a great look for the character. In my opinion, anyway. Like a lot of his games have been very mediocre.
There hasn't been a good one this century. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yeah, exactly. Like I played the 2 on the GameCube, and Adventure was different, but like it wasn't really a Star Fox game, and Assault was just fine. Like I don't think it was glaringly bad, but it was just okay. And even the N64 one, I had never really any attachment to or anything like that. And same with the SNES one. The SNES one always felt, I don't know, it doesn't run right in my head. It's like really pushing the SNES a bit too far. Yeah.
I think I remember they said like, oh, we want to make new games in every franchise, but we just have too many of them. And I feel like Star Fox Zero is like the ultimate victim of that, where it's just like, people were asking for a new Star Fox game, and they didn't want to make a new Star Fox game. They just kind of made one because people told them to.
Yeah.
And this Zero is kind of what you get, I guess. Where it's
Yeah.
our best idea is to force the gamepad into it.
Yeah. Also, Star Fox hasn't had many original stories, right?
No.
Like, isn't Zero even a remake of, or like the story is very heavily tied to another Star Fox game as well?
Yeah, so the first Star Fox game has very similar story to N64, and Zero's a remake of N64. So I think basically half of the series has the same story.
Literally all three of the big main lines.
Yep.
Just it's a circle. It's a snake eating its own tail.
And the 3DS one is also a remake of 64 as well.
It is. That's the only one that's brave enough to just say, yes, I am a remake.
So I would be interested to one day play Star Fox Zero. I should probably pick that game up cheap now while it's easy to get. But like I don't know. I've heard there is something to that insane mess if you're willing to like solve the Gordonian knot. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold off reservation. Apparently there is some small things worth seeing in that game, but yeah, it's been pretty widely panned. So
yeah, I've heard that too. But someday it'll be cheap enough in GameStop one of these days, and I'll pick it up.
I wouldn't say it's. I think it's disingenuous to say it is Platinum Games' worst game just because of how much Nintendo is in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surely, well, maybe Korra is not that bad, but that's usually brought out as they're kind of one of their worst games.
I think the next one is probably their worst game.
Oh yeah.
The Ninja Turtles game, Mutants in Manhattan. So they had the bright idea to make a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game without 4-player local co-op. Yeah, I don't need to really say more than that. I think it was also meant to be. I'm gonna have a gawk at the reviews, but I think most people were like, "Yeah, it's surprisingly ugly. The combat's kind of just only okay. It's very repetitive." And let's see, let's check out reception for it.
So this would have been their last
repetitive and expressing criticism. Like, okay, sorry, on.
This would have been their last team up with Activision. Then was it? Because there was a few of them.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's true.
And I wonder, is that intentional? Was that just okay? We've done our time. We've made our money.
Yeah,
we're done doing this. Square Enix will pay for our games now.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think that's the one thing as well. The games just really feel very Activision-y. Like I don't know. I guess maybe I haven't played Korra, but Platinum games always have a really good attitude in their game, and I feel like the Activision ones just feel so lifeless and soulless in comparison.
I would agree that Korra doesn't have a lot of Platinum attitude in it, really.
Yeah. So I would be because I've never played Korra or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, so I would be interested to see what a bad Platinum game is like. I'd say it's just boring, but
yeah, that's the main thing. Especially if you played Korra without having watched the show, I'd imagine you just kind of get very boring things. Then and this was their lowest point. They weren't looking like a good studio for like most of the PS4 era. They were just kind of doing it and miss, but people still had faith in them. And this is their ultimate. This is the perfect melding of like a guy that can't get a good team together that get shit done, do hard work, which is Yoko Taro. So Square Enix was like, go work with Platinum, maybe they'll help you. And they did. They made like Yoko Taro just told them what to do, and they did it. I think that's probably one of their strongest things. Where I think during this time, maybe they didn't have very strong directors, or because Scalebound was having so many issues that and Kamiya seemed to be the only one there, and Mikami went and did his own thing, and they didn't seem to foster a kind of new director to rise up and be his own person, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can foster like a director kind of kind of culture when you're doing licensed games.
Yeah. But well, I mean, I haven't played Nier, but like it was a I don't know. It really was the game that brought them back. Like I can't believe that there was that gap between like Bayonetta 2 and Nier. It doesn't feel like there was, but I guess at the time it probably really did. Because Nier was very much a surprise success when it came out. You know, I really wasn't expecting it to be as big as like I thought. You know, obviously it'd be big with people who like Nier and people who are interested in Square Enix, but it really got a much wider appeal than I thought it would.
Like I would the high points of Nier are like Platinum at its best. I think it's like if the game got a good editor, because it's one thing I'll whack it hard with is like there's 40 hours to get the real experience, and your good 12 of that is a lot of wasted time.
I lose a Square Enix game, so you know.
Yeah, you have to waste your time at some point.
Yeah, video games are all a waste of time anyway, so it's fine.
What wasn't the big complaint in the original Nier, like the fishing thing, where it's like there's this really early quest where you have to catch this fish, and the reviewer like spent hours doing it, and they're like the fish just didn't show up anywhere, and they were and like I don't think they ever got to the bottom of it, and they just like panned it. But actually it's like there's a pond maybe next to your house or something, and you have to walk like into the next area, and then there's another river, and that's where the fish is. So he was just fishing in the like it was like go to the water and catch fish, but it didn't tell you what water, so he just like wasted. But it's kind of on him as well. But that was the big thing from the original one, that it like everybody said like, oh, it takes so long to catch a fish in the game or whatever.
But Platinum just drawn to things that'll get negative reviews.
Maybe it's probably like they always want to just, I guess, get back the feeling of God Hand getting terrible reviews, but they knew in their heart what they made when they were back at Clover.
Yeah. So I guess if we're coming to the end, my question is, do you guys like that they've become a one genre studio? Like, you know.
Yeah.
No. Personally, I think Vanquish gave them the chance to do a couple of different things, and I appreciate that they're the only people in the game at the moment. And if you like that genre, it's great that they're doing it, because they keep making different games in the genre that are mixing it up. But I don't know. There's only so many times I can press square 4 times and then press triangle.
Yeah, and it's, well, obviously Scalebound. I mean, I'm not sure who that was on, because like that's the only game they've ever had that didn't come out or was cancelled. I don't know if that was Microsoft, their demands were too heavy, or if it was just Kamiya's dream was too hard to realize.
Yeah, it did seem a bit mad, didn't it?
I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah,
because like it was taking a while, and it didn't look great at the previews. It didn't look bad, but I don't think it was the game that would have turned things around for him. I think it would have reviewed modestly and sold maybe 1 million copies and been just,
I think as well, like it had that problem where they showed it a lot, but people weren't exactly sure what you did in the game. You know, like what, like they showed these big boss battles and stuff like that, but it was very unsure. Like, what's the moment-to-moment gameplay? Because you seem to be controlling these massive dragons. Like, how does that work in just a regular game? Like, and also I remember the one boss battle they showed from it just looked very slow in comparison to like a lot of Platinum games. And yeah, it didn't look like, even in the demo that they had probably like finally crafted just for E3, it didn't look like a game that was going to run well at all. And then like, so yeah, on the horizon, they've really just got, well, they've got the only one I recognize here is Bayonetta 3. But they do have a couple of games coming out for PS4, Babylon's Fall and Grand Blue Fantasy. But Bayonetta 3 is an interesting one, because I don't know if Bayonetta needs a third game.
Yeah. Maybe not.
I definitely think it'll have to change things more directly from 1 to 2. Like, I think there needs to be a big gap. If it's just an iteration, it'll be grand, but I do think it could contribute to more of the stagnation of the company, where it's just kind of doing what it does, and that's it.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's good that it's a Switch exclusive as well. That's a big one for Nintendo to have. But I am very interested to see it. I feel like it's a long time away though.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, because they haven't shown us anything about it. But yeah,
I'm hopeful. Babylon's Fall could be good.
Yeah, I like that title. I don't know anything about it, but that is a stellar title. Whenever anyone has Babylon as a title, that gets me excited.
have they shown anything of it yet, or is it just a title?
That trailer showed concept art.
Okay.
If I watched it again, I'm sure it showed something somewhat more substantial, but nothing really. It didn't really hint at a genre, but
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much Platinum anyway. Do we have to pick our favorite Platinum game?
Ooh.
Yeah, sure.
That's a good one because it's quite tough. Now that I'm thinking about it.
If we're including Clover, then it's Okami for me, but then maybe Vanquish.
Yeah.
But everything else is grand, but I suppose it's just maybe it's the feeling that because they broke into something different that was great. But who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably Vanquish or Bayonetta 2 for me.
Yeah, I'm okay. We've basically all said the same answers. If I'm allowed to say Okami 2, it's Okami 2. If not, it's Bayonetta. Or sorry, Okami. If it's not, it's Bayonetta 2. But in my defense, I've only played 2 proper Platinum games. So what am I doing on this segment?
It was good. It was good. I like looking to their history. I thought they had more bad games than they had, but they did only really have 2. So
yeah,
it really only comes down to 2.
Yeah.
So do we have a question?
Okay, so we were going to do the question of how much time Nintendo spend on the 3DS.
Sugar, that was it.
Do we want to just use that for this week and then deliver it?
Yeah, okay, yeah, and we can deliver it next week, yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So do we have the results from last week?
Okay, when I checked, it was on 88. So that's a win for Mr. Jerry.
Yes.
Putting you in the lead for the first time, I think.
Oh, wow, yeah, I think so, yeah. I never thought I'd be in the lead. I feel like I had the guests pulling me down every week when I was away.
No, like you've made some bang on guesses like the last 3 weeks, so it's all paid off for you.
Yeah.
It was just the reviews came out. I was like, damn it! I should have seen all of the cut and paste side missions and knocked it over.
Yeah.
I was too hopeful.
I think people love Spider-Man so much that I thought it was going to get some very inflated scores. But I know maybe also I trust Insomniac Games a little bit too much.
Still, 87 is great though, and it is getting really good worded reviews. But numbers, I guess they add up to that. So.
One thing that killed me was Jim Sterling did a video about his impressions because he stopped doing reviews with numbers anyway. And, he said that there's like realistically like only a couple of boss fights, like nothing on one of the Batman games levels, and that what really got him was there's only like 2 villains really that you deal with within the plot for an ongoing amount of time. Like it's apparently the Mr. Negative show for a good chunk of the game.
Okay.
And that like that prison break sequence that we saw at E3, that's towards the latter end of the game. And I think that could be considered a spoiler, but I think that's kind of a positive spoiler where it puts your expectations in check for the game.
Yeah, that's good.
Between that and like the DLC announcements, I'm kind of the mindset that like I've got plenty of games to play at the moment, so I might just leave that.
Yeah, hold off on it. Yeah, if I had the money, I feel like Dragon Quest XI would need my business more than Spider-Man.
I love that. You want to show support for that console, Dragon Quest, don't you, Jerry?
I really do, because it looks amazing. It looks so good. So if I was going to buy a big release this week, it would be that. But I am excited to play Spider-Man for 20 to 30 euro in a couple of months. So yeah, so the 3DS.
Yeah, so Kieran's idea was how many minutes will they spend discussing the 3DS in next week's Direct?
I'll let you guys go first.
I'm going to take the answer and say 0 minutes. I'm going to say we got burnt on this before when we thought they're going to spend a ton of time on 3DS games and Wii U ports and thing. I'm not certain about it. Like maybe there'll be like, I can imagine like 2 trailers or something, but I'm just going to take the 0 minutes answer.
8 minutes and 36 seconds.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go for. It's gonna go for 6 minutes. Because I feel like the 2 trailers, I feel like there'll be one big trailer and then like maybe a sizzle reel, and they'll talk about it for a bit, and then that'll be it. So I think we're at the 6 minute mark. But I feel like Owen could have it there with 0 because he's got a lot of time there where he's in the majority. So that could be problematic.
I think they'll talk about 3DS games.
Yeah, I mean they have. I guess they also. Yeah, we're going by the European stream as well, right?
Sure.
Because sometimes they do differ at what they show. You know, because sometimes they'll show like a pre-order bonus that's announced for Europe but not for America or something. So
I suppose we will, but if we hopped on Twitter, I'd say the majority of people in our friend group follow Nintendo of America instead of Nintendo of Europe or Nintendo of the Nintendo UK.
I don't know which stream you guys watch, but if we're all watching it together, I usually hop on the European stream. But
yeah, no, I'll do it. I'll do the same, so we can show support. Make them release them at a reasonable time.
I feel like watching the American one just gets your hopes up for things that aren't going to come out over here, or like certain things they won't release over here, or just like you'll see things and wish they were coming out over here. So the European one's the way to go.
Yeah, you're dead right. Though.
And is that us for this week? Or
it is. I think it is. So thank you for yet another podcast, live in the flesh this time, if that's what you like. See you guys later.
Bye. Stop. Okay. I'm just gonna save this project.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Before I do anything else. Yeah. So this is episode 13, is it?
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
So, what did you guys think of the camera thing?
Yeah, I've no problems with